Warning: this episode contains descriptions of sexual violence that some listeners may find disturbing. Listener discretion is strongly advised. You're listening to the Voices of Recovery podcast. This is a special episode featuring a recovering addict. Hi, my name is Sophie. I'm the host and producer of the Voices of Recovery podcast. I'm joined here today by Debbie. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, Sophie.
Thank you so much for kicking off our December Illness and Recovery series and for doing the readings for the Just for Today and the SPAD.
My pleasure.
You're always doing some form of service, and I so appreciate you. I met Debbie at the day meeting, and the day meeting here in Nassau County is called Hopeful in Hicksville. It's every day, Monday through Friday, from 1 to 2:15 p.m., and Debbie is one of the cornerstone people of that meeting and one of the most solid women in that meeting too, has done a lot of service over the years. And for a newcomer like myself and other newcomers, I know a lot of newcomers really gravitate towards you. So thank you for being that for us, Debbie.
It's a gift.
It's really wonderful to witness the way that you move through NA. Being new in recovery, it gives me something to look up to. So thank you.
Thank you, Sophie.
Yeah.
That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
But everyone means a lot to me. So
yeah.
It's a gift to be able to give back what I freely received.
And I know that my experience is not unique. I know a lot of people feel the same way. So just echoing really what other people are saying too and feeling. So I wanted to have you on our special series on illness and recovery because you have shared both as my speaker once upon a time at the women's meeting, which unfortunately closed, and I've heard you share that you have been through a multitude of different types of health challenges. You're a breast cancer survivor. You've had surgeries. Relapse is a part of your story. And I really wanted to get to know who Debbie is.
You know, I started using pretty much like almost every high school kid, starting drinking a little bit here and there, smoking pot at parties, sometimes even once I got to high school, smoking pot after lunch or before lunch and then going to class high. I didn't think anything of it. It just was something that everybody did. It didn't even occur to me that it could lead to other things. I don't think my drug use per se escalated until later, but my addictive personality was evident early on in my life, mainly because my parents moved around a lot. And that meant that we had to pick up and go just when I was getting comfortable and my brothers were getting comfortable in the home that we'd be in. All of a sudden, we would have to pick up and go. And being raised in Brooklyn, a place that I loved. I had a neighborhood. There were lots of kids around. Walkable rides. I was popular. I was taking piano lessons. I was doing fine in school. I did know, even at an early age, that I was very needy. I needed attention. I needed a lot of love. I needed extra love. I don't know why. I was a very sensitive and emotional young girl, not developing as fast as other girls once I started to age a bit. So I started to feel weird, left out, ridiculed once I got into middle school. And another move happened when we had to leave Brooklyn and go to Florida. And I did not want to do that. I had to do it. I was going into fourth grade, so I had no choice.
Such a difficult time to do that too, because you're just starting to get into your personality.
I was finding my personality. I do remember feeling that I didn't have to hide who I was, but when I got to Florida, I had to, because I felt like a fish out of water. I wasn't readily accepted. Being readily accepted was not easy. It didn't happen overnight. I felt like an odd person out. I wasn't invited to parties. I wasn't invited over other girls' houses, maybe here and there. And I met a couple of other girls that they were fine, but I wasn't, almost like I was a little bit of the center of attention in Brooklyn. Not all the time and not just me, but I was absolutely not near the center of attention in any way when I got to Florida. So subsequently, I hate Florida now. I know the weather can be really nice in the winter, but count me out.
If you're a New Yorker, you either love or you hate
And
Florida.
I hate it. I hate it. So I wasn't using drugs when I was there from fourth grade to eighth grade. We moved back up north, this time to New Jersey, northern New Jersey, not far from Manhattan. My dad was in the entertainment business, so he went to work for a CBS News local news channel. My mother was a secretary in the Board of Education. I once again was a fish out of water. When you come to New Jersey or up north in the ninth grade, which is really the last year of junior high school. Now, in the last year of junior high school, everybody has their friends. Why'd you move from Florida? And, well, I'm originally from Brooklyn, and that didn't seem to matter to anybody. And once again, I was that fish out of water and feeling very insecure about myself. And when I segued into going to high school, the smoking weed and drinking, not excessively. It was not excessive, but I did it. And but I was attracted to guys, and no guys were attracted to me. I was very small and underdeveloped for my age. I actually didn't get my period till I was almost 18 years
No
old.
way, really? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And because of that, my mother, who remembered a family member on her mother's side that also didn't get their period until much later, and she told me this, had a brain tumor, and
Oh
that
my
was why she
goodness.
didn't have her period. So I got scared into thinking I might have a brain tumor. So they sent me to an endocrinologist, and I had to go for a massive amount of blood tests. And it came back that I was just a late bloomer. I was a late bloomer.
So you were exposed even in your childhood to doctors and testings and
And I was told specifically, why would I remember something like this? A doctor said to me, you have the mind of a 16-year-old, but the body of a 10-year-old.
mm,
And I was crushed
mm.
because all the other girls were developing breasts and getting their period and growing and changing. And I was this short little girl, and I felt like a little girl. But in my brain, I didn't feel like I was a little girl.
Mm.
I didn't think I was stupid. I thought I had some smarts to me. I was doing pretty good in school, but I was just very insecure. So that insecurity segued into me doing things like people pleasing to try to fit in and even accept being bullied and allowing it because at least I was getting attention.
Right.
And uh, it, but it didn't sit right with me, and I always felt there was something wrong. And I always felt there was something wrong with me. Like I said, I didn't think I was stupid, but I felt that there was something wrong with me, and it was a very unsettling feeling. My parents were very much a hovering type of parents, extremely overprotective. As a matter of fact, I discovered that I was fast in gym when they put me out on the field to start to run track. And I ran like the wind. I had no idea that I could do that. I wanted to join the track team. There wasn't a female track team, but there was a male track team. And I was the only girl on it. And my father, in his own way, he was always scared of doing things and achieving any kind of status or making more money or going up higher in the ranks of his position in the entertainment industry, which was electrician and stagehand work behind the scenes. He would always put the kibosh on me trying to achieve a lot. So he said, "You'll never be able to keep up with the boys. You'll never be able to stay. You can't long distance run." And it's not that, and I became afraid to do that. So I dropped out of the track team. And here I was, I broke a school record. And that apparently didn't matter. And I don't begrudge my parents for not being supportive. They were just always afraid of something happening to me,
Mm.
and less so with my brothers because I was the girl. I went on to college. I had to beg to go to college. I got accepted to all the state schools in New Jersey. I ended up going to Rutgers, study communications. I wanted to work in the music industry. I have a very powerful love for all kinds of music, from Gilbert and Sullivan to classical to the Rolling Stones to even popular music today. And I felt that I was amassing this incredible wealth of information in my head: who sang what song, what album was it on, and how many years have this band been in existence. So I thought maybe when I got to college, I could be a disc jockey and kind of hang on the radio and do that kind of stuff. And then I had loftier thoughts that I could actually work in the industry, but nobody appreciated that. No one in my family. My older brother, who went to architecture school, said, "You need to become a lawyer. That's what you should be doing. You have the brain for it." I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. I wanted to work in the music industry, and no one thought that as a valid way to go with one's life. I ended up getting an internship with a major market radio station in New York
Oh,
City
wow.
and got in. I
Awesome.
got in and I started hanging around with some really troubling people.
Mm.
This was in the late 70s, and this is when sex, drugs, and rock and roll was really
Oh,
rampant.
yeah. The lifestyle.
The lifestyle of that, and I was hanging out with these executives doing a lot of crazy stuff, and I started trying a lot of stuff. I was doing quaaludes, I was doing cocaine, I wasn't smoking as much. I was drinking maybe a little bit more, and I got a job at another radio station, this time a real job, and I thought that this could really mean that I'm on my way.
Did you see it becoming unmanageable then? Your usage of drugs and the lifestyle while you were at work? Did you start to get an inkling about it?
Yes. One day I was out partying with all these big executives at the biggest record companies that exist in the world. And we were drinking and we were doing coke at the table at this Chinese restaurant on 56th Street, I think it was, 53rd Street, I can't remember. And I was living with my cousin, who lived in a loft on 72nd and Columbus. I wasn't traveling back to New Jersey to live with my parents because I wasn't making enough money to get my own apartment. But my cousin said, "Well, come stay with me." I got the room. It was really like not even a one bedroom, it was a one room apartment. And she had a loft bed. And she also had a bed on the floor. And I was tired. I wanted to go home. I'd been working all day. I had work the next day. And she gave me the keys to the apartment, and I went home to her apartment and went to sleep. Then I hear a banging on the door, and it was my cousin with one of the guys from this very big record company. He must have been at that time in his 50s, and I was 22. And she went into the bathroom and closed the door and got sick, and he raped me.
Oh my God.
He was big. He was a very tall, big man, and I'm this petite young woman. And he pinned me down on the bed, and he just totally overwhelmed me. I remember saying no 1,000 times, and he didn't care. He said, "I'm going to make you like it," and he raped me. And when my cousin came out, who was drunk and high from the partying that night, she yelled at me and made me feel that it was all my fault. So the guilt and the shame and oh no, I wasn't going to tell anybody about this.
Right.
And this was 1979, 1980. So there was no term called date rape back
Right.
then. I didn't know what that was. All I know is that I said no, and it was against my will, and I felt dirty, and I felt sick, and I felt that I was violated. But who am I going to tell? I'm going
Right.
to tell my parents. They're so worried about me all the time. This will flip them out. So I didn't tell anybody. And my cousin and I had a falling out for
Due
a
to
number of
this. Oh my
years.
goodness. How traumatic.
It was so, I didn't even know that I was so
Yeah.
traumatized because
You
I
didn't have the
just kept it
language. Yeah,
in.
you
I
didn't have the
didn't have,
language.
right, I didn't have words for
Right.
this. And who am I going to tell?
Right. Who can you share this with?
Right. So that kind of, sat in the back of my head for a little bit. And then I had also been friends with somebody from home, from New Jersey. Her and her husband started renting a house down the Jersey Shore. So I started going down with them. And let me tell you, this is the early 80s now. Partying our asses off. Now I'm drinking a lot. Now I'm smoking a lot. Now we're doing quaaludes. And now I'm having sex with a lot of people because I'm looking for love in all the wrong places.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be thought of as attractive. I wanted to be thought of as desirable. And I wasn't meeting anybody that would lead into a long term relationship. So I just grabbed what I could. And it always left me feeling empty and sorry for what I did. So I was feeling a lot more of that guilt and shame. And I also remember my parents moving to again because my mother had breast cancer. So they sold their house and moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in a high rise in Fort Lee area of New Jersey. And one day my father took all my laundry and he did my laundry for me. And I came home from work. This is kind of fuzzy. I don't really remember the depths of this. All that I do remember is my father saying how disgusting it was for him to wash my underwear.
Talk about shame inducing and
What did I do?
heartbreaking. Right.
I mean, girls get their periods,
Right.
and sometimes it goes through, and you can't help it. And
I'm so sorry that you had that
I,
experience.
I
That's
could not believe how humiliated and gross I felt.
right. That's painful.
So painful, so painful. And he did a couple of other things to me that was humiliating. Being humiliated and laughing at me, not with me, laughing at me, humiliating me in front of other people, embarrassing me in front of other people is a major trigger for me. Not now, because I'm much more solid in who I am and what is the truth and what isn't the truth. I believed everything people said to me, sadly.
Having a parent do that to you must have been just devastating for your self-esteem.
It was.
Yeah.
But I knew that he loved me.
There's like
And
a
he,
juxtaposition and which
exactly,
lends itself to people pleasing, right?
exactly, exactly. And he was hard to please until he started to see that he was very damaged and that he was sexually abused. And
Mm.
didn't know this until much later, that my father was abused by his own mother and his own sister and a teacher growing up. And that is why he was so afraid of everything from me. That he was a very sensitive man. And he went through a lot of self analysis. He went to analysis, but he went through self analysis to get a better understanding and started to embrace spirituality, not religion, spirituality. And he started passing these words of wisdom to me. So I have these books that are over in my cabinet here, Friendship with God, Conversations with God, and I have them and has his name written in it. He
Mm.
gave them to me before he passed away.
Mm.
And I don't think of him in the ways I just said to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I remember them and they were very painful. But I could see that that pain that he inflicted on me was because he was in pain.
I'm glad that you were able to heal that relationship with your father before he
Much,
passed.
very much so.
I'm so glad.
Very much so.
A lot of people don't have that opportunity, so you're very
No, they
lucky.
don't.
So, in growing up and being in these high places, but also harboring these terrible experiences and growing up post college in your adult life, how did you begin to move through life? How did your addiction develop? And then where did your illnesses come into play?
I'm going to go quickly through the next stage that I think of my life in, which was being introduced to a man who I should not have developed a relationship with, but it was a 3-year relationship that resulted in an engagement. And he was using a lot of drugs. As a matter of fact, he said, "Come on, I'm going to take you out to Santa Cruz, California. I want you to meet some friends." Well, what he was going out for is to buy pounds and pounds of marijuana.
Oh,
And I had no idea until I saw him stuffing it in the suitcase coming home. I didn't realize how much in danger my life was. Because he made so light of it. And one day he woke up and he was doing he was doing coke. And then I told him, "Look, I don't want to see anybody and go out with anyone that does this, because I saw a lot of people in the music industry succumb to their drug use,
right.
their coke use, like crashing their car because they were so high." And that scared me. So I stopped using coke, and all I was doing was drinking wine at this point and smoking pot.
Mm-hmm.
So after going through a little bit of therapy, he enraged me so many times. I started to see that this anger was inside of me, and he was driving me nuts, and I wasn't thinking clearly about whether I should be going through this potential marriage or not. I had my wedding dress hanging in my mother's
Oh
house.
my goodness.
I had my bridesmaids had their dresses. All the
Oh,
invitations were printed.
oh no.
Everything had a deposit made on it. The photographer, the
You're
temple,
all in.
all in, and I'm committed, but still wondering, am I making a mistake or not? And he has to go to the hospital in the middle of the night one time. And the doctor pulled me aside and said he has a lot of drugs in his system. And I said, "Yeah, he smokes pot." And they said, "No, he has a lot of cocaine in his system." So
So he was lying to
he
you.
was big time lying to me. And when I confronted him, we went to a therapist to try to talk it out. And I came back home, by the way, to his house where I was living. And he said, "I want you to get your things and get out of my
He
house."
threw you out?
He threw me out of his house. I went back to my parents' house and had a nervous breakdown.
Of course.
I had a nervous breakdown.
Of course.
I opened up their medicine cabinet and found Valium.
Okay.
And it felt so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And all my fear, all my pain was getting floated away by that stuff. And then I found other things, Darvocet, Percocet, and I just was all in with that because I wanted to sleep. I always had a sleep issue. I wanted to sleep
And not feel.
and not feel. So somehow I got my shit back together, even though I was using this. And I got back to work and I got a better job. And then I went to visit my parents, who had moved at this point to retire to Florida. I went down for a long weekend and I went to the pool with my mother. And sitting at the pool at a table with myself and my mother were two other ladies, and we were playing cards. And one lady turned to me and said, "Debbie, I've met you a couple of times since your parents moved here. My older son is visiting with my husband and I." And I said, "Oh, good for you.
Thank you very much for
Thank
the
you."
information.
And mind you, I'm living in New Jersey. I actually had an apartment at this point, in a 2-family house in New Jersey. And she said, "Yeah, he's going through a divorce and he has 3 kids and he lives on Long Island. Do you want to meet him?" And I looked at her and said, "No, no, and no.
No, hell no.
No, hail no." Wait a minute. Can you repeat that? Going through a divorce, so not yet divorced, 3 children, and living in an area that I've only been to maybe twice to go to a concert. Is that what you're saying to me? Yeah, but I really think you'll like him. Why don't you come over to meet him? And I said no. And then my parents, of course, you got to meet him. Right. I rolled my eyes. It's exactly what I did. And finally I relented. And when we laid eyes on each other, something happened. And this is not love at first sight. This was a feeling that both of us had at the same time. This is somebody I am going to like. This is somebody I'm going to want to get to know.
Spoiler alert, we're sitting in their house right now. And she raised those three children.
That's one hell of a spoiler. That's right. Mind you, it was so we got into a relationship and it happened, quickly. We started commuting back and forth to visit each other,
Oh my God.
and
New
then there's
Jersey to Long
New
Island. I've
Jersey to
done that
Long
drive.
Island, and I'm
Girl,
working
that's
full
love.
and I'm working full
That's
time, and
love.
but my husband owns a drugstore, so he needed to be there 6 times, sometimes 7 days a week. So the majority of the time it was me doing the driving. So I was very uncomfortable with coming to a new place. I might as well have gone to Canada. I didn't know where I was, and I had to learn how to get around, and it was very frightening to me. So here I am living on Long Island, getting to know three kids, two girls that were not very friendly to me. Well, they were, but then they weren't because they got the ear of their mother and their grandmother. Because remember, there was a divorce happening, and I didn't know that their mother was also in recovery, but in AA. One day I realized, oh my goodness, I got to go for my routine mammogram. And this was maybe about 6 months after I moved to Long Island. So I moved here. We had to look for a house. So we were looking for a house. I had to find a job. I had to figure out where I was. I had to realize that it looks like I'm getting into this committed relationship where
And
there's
also,
three kids.
you have like a long-standing experience of picking up, moving, and establishing yourself in somewhere new, right? This
And
is
when I
another pattern.
and I had another breakdown when moving day happened. And then all my stuff moved into this temporary apartment that we had because we had to look for a place to live. And we went to a diner to get some food. And then I realized what I just did. I just moved away from all my friends and my job.
Again.
I had to leave my job. I had to say goodbye to, not say goodbye to my friends, but now I'm not going to be within 15 minutes of all my friends.
Uprooted yourself again.
Again,
By yourself now this time.
now by myself. Thank you. And I realized I had to go from that routine mammogram because my mother had breast cancer, her sister had breast cancer, and another sister had ovarian cancer. And we always wondered why that happened, by the way. So, P.S., I get called into the doctor's office and he says, you need to see a breast surgeon.
Oh my goodness.
And I was 39 years old, and my life with Steve was just starting. And I went to a breast surgeon. I had a lumpectomy, and it was malignant.
Oh.
So I went right into chemo. Actually, I couldn't go right into chemotherapy because the divorce came through and we wanted to get married. So I got married in December of 1998. I was diagnosed in 1997.
Held off on your therapy to get married now.
Held on of my chemo that I was deathly afraid of.
So you're like, gladly, yeah, babe, let's get married, sure.
Right. Got married. We had a 2.5 day honeymoon out in East Hampton because that's all we could afford because we were paying child support for three children. And we bought a house, so we had to pay mortgage and our bills and all kinds of other things. And I had to find a job, and I found a job, and it was not what I wanted, and it was a mess.
You can curse.
It was a fucking mess. Chemotherapy, radiation, and then my doctor suggested I go for genetic testing. Now, I didn't know what that was. This is a very common term today. This was 1998. This was before Google was even established. So I had to understand, what does he mean by genetic testing? What does that actually mean? I didn't know anything about it. I wasn't immersed. I left my job in advertising and marketing, which is what I segued to after the record business. And I went to work for a nonprofit breast cancer organization.
Wow.
And I started to learn the terminology, and I immersed myself in
Wow.
it. And I started to understand, okay, now I see what genetic testing means and counseling.
Mm-hmm.
So first I went for the counseling, and in the counseling, I discovered through many phone calls to relatives that on my mother's father's side of the family, breast and ovarian cancer was rampant.
Wow. Yeah, it's
I
genetic.
was the first one to discover that. And indeed, I did get diagnosed with the BRCA1 genetic mutation and then had at least 10 more operations.
Oh my gosh.
With those surgeries
Oh,
came the pain
of
pills
course.
and the fear.
And your husband owns a drugstore.
And my husband owns a drugstore.
Perfect. It's like Toys R Us.
I was like a kid in a candy
Yeah.
store.
Yeah.
I get to sleep
Yeah.
because I have trouble sleeping. I get to squash my fears and my fright from my life.
And you have a valid excuse to do so. You're going
I have
through.
I'm going through all these surgeries. My breasts are getting ripped off, and then I had to have my ovaries out, and then I went into menopause at 40, and then my body started changing, and my sexual appetite went into the toilet bowl.
Oh my
And
gosh.
here I am, newly married.
Right.
Everything went to hell in a handbasket. And using was, to me, the only answer
Right.
for this kind of pain and turmoil and fear. And the ironic thing is, I'm using drugs because I was afraid of dying. And here I am potentially killing myself
Right.
over something that I didn't want to kill me.
Right. You're having these procedures. You're going through this pain, this anguish. Where did NA come into your life? Where did recovery appear?
Well, my husband realized that I'm starting to exhibit the same issues that his ex wife was exhibiting. But her issues were a lot different than mine.
Mm-hmm.
But the main core of the disease is the same. It's being self-centered, it's thinking only about yourself, it's not thinking about consequences, it's not living in the solution, living in the problem. And that was a big thing with me. I loved being in the pity party.
Mm-hmm.
I got all this attention.
Right.
Going back to when I was a little girl, even when I was in high school and moving around, I was in that space where I wanted the attention. And boy, I got a lot of attention because I was sick with breast cancer.
Of course.
He invited a friend over that was in the rooms of NA, and she said, "You need to come to an NA meeting.
Hmm.
You are an addict." I said, "What are you talking about?"
What do you mean?
"What do you mean I got to stop drinking wine? I only drink it, with dinner if we go out to dinner."
And my handful of pills,
Yeah, my handful of pills
which the
that
doctor prescribed
the
to me.
doctor prescribed it to me. I mean, it all made sense to me until it didn't make sense. Until I went to this meeting and I was scared out of my mind. And I went in 2004, May 13th, 2004. I don't not remember these dates. That date was important. That was my first clean date.
Mm.
And then I really wasn't serious about the recovery portion of it. The recovery portion required me to get the right sponsor, not just get a sponsor. I got a sponsor that really wasn't working the program with me. And I didn't realize because I just wanted somebody, okay, I have a sponsor now,
Somebody to call.
somebody to call. And I really wasn't doing that. And then in my meeting
Attendance.
attendance started drifting off. And then I was just a dry addict,
Not practicing program.
not practicing recovery. So I was clean until I go to work at Memorial Sloan Kettering because still I wanted to work in the cancer industry. And I became very good at my job, working in the chemotherapy unit and maintaining everyone's schedules and working with the doctors and the nurses and patients and things like that. But one day I was running out of a exam room and I got caught in wires and I went flying in the air and landed on my left side and I cracked my left femur in half
Oh
at the neck of the femur, which was right at the hip.
no.
And my leg went into a very strange direction because it sheared off. because I was on a type of drug called bisphosphonates, which helps with bone health. After you have to have your ovaries out, you need to watch your bone health. So I was doing what I was supposed to do, but little did I know that it can cause a brittle femur. So when I landed on it, and that ended me up in an emergency surgery with pain that was not even recognizable to the pain that I had from mastectomy and other breast surgeries.
And so at this point, you're clean for how long?
Well, it was May 13th, 2004 to September 10th, 2010.
So about six, was it 6 years?
About
About
six
6 years,
years.
almost
Right,
5 years and change.
right. And they pumped me with dilaudid and methadone. And it took 1 year to rehab from that accident. I had metal rods and pins up and down my leg. I have scars up and down the left side of my body. So there's more scars now.
Ugh.
And my body was just getting ripped up, from all the breast cancer surgeries. And then after I relapsed, because I relapsed on all that
Course.
dilaudid and methadone,
Of
when I
course.
tried to step down from the dilaudid, I relapsed on Valium because the anxiety and I was going through withdrawal. And I went through withdrawal at home. I didn't do it at a detox. I didn't go into the hospital. I didn't go to a rehab. And I've never used a needle in my arm. I've never been arrested. None of those things happened to me, but man, everything else happened to me.
Well, I don't think any of those things have to happen to you
They
for you
don't have to
to
happen.
have a seat,
And
right?
when I first came in 2004, I thought that's what I had to come in to be an addict
Right.
until I started to listen and learn.
There are a lot of people in the rooms who will try to talk your addiction down,
Right.
right?
Like
And
it's not as bad as
right, or
mine.
to just, I mean, that's just like a self-centered thing. Like,
Right.
oh, you didn't go through what I went through, and I have more recovery than you did. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I
there's
do.
that invalidation that people do to each other. I think is unfair, and it really keeps people out of the rooms.
It sadly it does, and I know this now, but I didn't know it then.
Mm-hmm.
But I came to understand. As with a lot of things in recovery, you come to understand
Mm-hmm.
so much more. So when I had enough and when I realized that I was going to die in the house because now I had no job because they couldn't keep my job at Sloan Kettering any longer.
Mm.
So now I had no purpose. Zero. And I really thought I was going to die. I crawled back into an NA meeting on Sunday, June 23rd, 2013. And I have not, nor I will, look back ever again. But I don't ever want to forget where I was. So I can always be reminded of that pain and that torture and that torment because my life today, albeit not perfect, is wonderful. And why? Because I made it that way. I created I found the real Debbie. And it was only through Narcotics Anonymous and being in recovery and getting the greatest sponsor I could possibly ask for, who is now a friend, group of people doing service, going to meetings, doing whatever they say to do is what I did. And when I'm told what to do, and believe me, there were times I just didn't listen to anybody, but I was told what to do, and I did it. And I want to do it. That's the difference now. I want to do this because I'm happy with who I am. Finally, is it a perfect scenario? It's absolutely not a perfect scenario. I still have issues, and I'm okay with having issues, whether they're long-term issues or momentary disturbances in my life. My mother passed away while I was in recovery. I did not use. As a matter of fact, she died at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and the next day I had a commitment to chair a meeting. And I went to the meeting
Wow.
in Hicksville and I chaired the meeting, but I shared that my mother just died that morning. And everyone was looking at me like, look at you, and you're here. And I said, well, I have a commitment.
Yep.
And I take my commitments very seriously. And I'm always thinking of the newcomer. When I recognize a lot of the people in the day meeting and I see a newcomer come in, I go right over to that woman and welcome them into the room and welcome them into Narcotics Anonymous and give my name and my phone number.
You've done it with me. You do it with all of us.
I love doing it because it brought me to who I am. And I love who I am finally.
And focusing on the newcomer is the whole purpose of the program, right?
Absolutely.
It's the 12th step.
Absolutely.
Like, I stay clean through steps 1 through 11 so that I can give it
in step 12. And I work my steps and I don't falter with it. I work my steps with my sponsor. And I'm really hyper focused on step 11, which is improving my conscious contact with the God of my understanding and praying for his will to help me carry it out. And I've never believed in anything so strongly. And I'm not a religious person. I'm proud of my Jewish heritage. But I've never believed in a spiritual way of life where I can meditate to think and listen, to pray for what I want, and to meditate for what I need to listen for the answers, if there are any. And there may not be answers to certain things. But I take my recovery seriously. I make 5 meetings a week on average, and I do readings every morning. I have people that send me things. I read that intently. I'm hyper-focused, and everything that I do is rooted in recovery. And it works because I work it.
And thank you for lending your voice to the Voices of Recovery and for allowing people to hear you read those readings.
Yes.
As anybody that's been in a Wednesday meeting, at the day meeting, knows it's the Just for Today reading, and we read that reading. And I've heard Debbie read it many a time, or having you read the SPAD, and being able to give that to other people who are not local to our area, or people that can't see, people that can't read, people that don't have access to the books.
Exactly.
And just have a cell phone is just, it's wonderful.
It's a pleasure to be able to do it. And I'm also proud to say, and I can end with this, that on September 27th, I achieved 28 years of being clear of breast cancer.
That's amazing.
The worst subtype of breast cancer that is defined in all the medical journals is triple negative breast cancer with infiltrating ductal carcinoma, BRCA1 positive. It was literally I was on my way to death. And I somehow, by the grace of God and my own persistence to move quickly for prophylactic mastectomies to save my life.
God had bigger plans for you.
Most definitely.
I love you, Debbie.
I love you, Sophie. Thank you for having me.
I'm crying now.
I love you too.
The Voices of Recovery podcast is an independent production of the Works of Wisdom. We welcome your questions and donations via PayPal at voicesofrecoverypod@gmail.com. This podcast is an independent production and is not affiliated with, associated with, authorized by, endorsed by, or in any way officially connected with Narcotics Anonymous or any of its subsidiaries or affiliates. While NA literature may be read during episodes for the purpose of supporting recovery, such use does not constitute an official endorsement or representation by Narcotics Anonymous. In accordance with NA tradition, the NA name is not to be used to endorse or be affiliated with any outside enterprise, and no such endorsement or affiliation is implied. Music is by Sage. Thanks for listening to the Voices of Recovery podcast.